at the bottom of Warnemont Park's steep cliff, in or near Lake Michigan's roaring waters. Investigators say a park goer spotted a bizarre sight Tuesday evening, a severed leg.
They just want justice. They want justice. This is a horrible thing that happened, and they want justice.
It's the same place where someone found Robinson's severed leg April 2nd.
As they were walking, see that leg right there? Yeah. Said that it was up about approximately where the end of that stick, that branch is.
By the bushes right there.
Yeah, bushes. Said that they saw it up
So
there.
it's like up on the hill, kind of?
Yeah.
Okay.
So said that him and his buddy, who's in my squad right now, walked out, called us, and then when we came back, it was about, I don't know, maybe 7 feet east.
By the rock.
I moved it just for evidence purposes.
Okay, so it doesn't get swept away?
This case takes us to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a sprawling city resting along the western shore of Lake Michigan. With more than 500,000 residents, Milwaukee is known for its breweries, its sports teams, and its hardworking spirit. But beneath that reputation lies something darker. The city's history is tangled with crime, corruption, and tragedy, shadows that still stretch across its neighborhoods today. Like many urban centers, Milwaukee is a place of stark contrasts. Its lively downtown streets can quickly fade into quiet corners scarred by poverty and violence. It's a city that has been both celebrated and haunted, a backdrop where lives are built and just as easily torn apart. And it was here, caught between that uneasy mix of promise and peril, that 19-year-old Sade Robinson made her home. For Sade, Milwaukee wasn't just another city on a map. It was her world. Sade entered the world on May 10th, 2004, in Vicksburg, Mississippi, born to parents Carlos and Sheena. Just a toddler at the time, she was only 2 years old when her family packed up and left the South behind. Their move north brought them to Milwaukee, a place that would no longer just be a stop along the way, but the community where Sade grew up and spent her life. Growing up in Milwaukee, Sade immersed herself in school and community life. She attended a local public school, joined the Girl Scouts, and played soccer. But where she truly shined was in the arts. Dancing was her passion, though she also loved rapping, performing, and even trying her hand at ballroom dance. Sade's bold, energetic spirit made her the kind of person who could walk into any room and light it up. At one time, she even thought seriously about serving in the Air Force. Sade's future was wide open. She had beauty, intelligence, and the determination to succeed both in her studies and in her friendships. After finishing high school in 2022, she went on to study criminal justice, a field she excelled in. She was set to graduate on May 10th, 2024, the very day she would celebrate her 20th birthday. Sade wasn't just busy with school. She was working hard in the real world, too. She balanced 2 jobs, one at a local spot called Pizza Shuttle. On top of that, she worked shifts at the Wisconsin Country Club, all this while managing to keep up her own apartment, a responsibility that spoke volumes about her drive and independence. But before long, Sade would cross paths with someone who couldn't have been more different from her. The connection between Sade and Maxwell Anderson began late in March 2024. Their first date took place on March 29th at Victor's Bar in Milwaukee. A few days later, the two arranged to meet again. That second date on April 1st was the last time anyone would see her. On that day, Sade finished her regular shift at Pizza Shuttle before heading out to meet Maxwell. Friends and neighbors recalled that she seemed eager for the evening, even telling her building's maintenance man about her plans. Exactly how the two were introduced remains uncertain. Some accounts suggest that Sade met Maxwell when she visited the bar where he worked, either through friends or casual conversation. Regardless, by the time of their second date, they were comfortable enough to be texting back and forth. Sade suggested seafood, and they agreed on the Twisted Fisherman, yet another spot tied to Maxwell's past employment. On April 1st, just days after their first outing, Sade and Maxwell met up again for date number 2. Sade had mentioned craving seafood, so they agreed on the Twisted Fisherman. They met shortly after 5 in the evening and spent about an hour eating and having a drink before heading out at around 6:30. Next, the pair went to Duke's bar, but according to those who saw them, the night wasn't going particularly well for Sade. While Maxwell seemed perfectly entertained chatting and throwing darts with another couple, Sade appeared distant, even bored. They stuck around Duke's for a few hours before leaving around 9 p.m. in Sade's car. That would be the last time anyone saw her. The following day, April 2nd, Sade failed to show up for her scheduled shift at Pizza Shuttle. For anyone else, it might have been brushed off, but for Sade, who never missed work, it was instantly concerning when calls from her manager and co-workers went unanswered. Red flags went up. This wasn't her. Sade was reliable, and silence from her was unusual. Throughout the day, her boss kept trying her number, and soon friends and family were calling too. No one had heard from her. That evening, around 9 p.m., her family officially reported her missing. Police began their investigation at her apartment. They knocked. No answer. After letting themselves in, they found the unit untouched. No signs of a struggle, but it also looked as though Sade hadn't been home at all that day. What authorities didn't realize just yet was that events connected to her disappearance were already in motion. Earlier that same day, a car had been discovered, burned beyond recognition. At approximately 7:30 a.m., only 3 miles from Sade's apartment, a vehicle was found ablaze behind a deserted building. According to a witness, a man had climbed out of the car, flicked a lighter inside, and left the scene. He was described as dressed in a gray hoodie and carrying a tan backpack. The car, a 2020 Honda Civic, was later traced back to Sade Robinson. Even more alarming, inside the trunk, officers recovered some of her belongings, including clothing and her phone, partially burned in the fire.
Super weird because that engine still looks like it's in pristine condition. Huh? It didn't even look like, I mean that in the sense of like the fire didn't even touch the engine or any part of the front of the vehicle. Oh, it was all interior.
As Sade's manager continued desperately calling and searching for her that day, a separate scene was taking place. Evan, along with a friend, decided to take a walk near Lake Michigan. The two made their way through Warnemont Park, about a 30-minute drive south of Milwaukee, following the lake shoreline. During their walk, Evan and his friend made a chilling discovery: a severed human leg. It was later determined to have come from a black woman. The sight left Evan stunned, struggling to process what he was looking at. A gruesome and unforgettable moment.
Stand by. I have the on-call sheet. I'm trying to figure out what we can do.
I'll take that. Alright.
How's it going?
What's up, man?
So, this is Evan Millies. We've dealt with him before. Sometimes, mostly a good guy. gotten into this trouble a couple times, but good dude.
Okay.
So they walked down the S curve from Sheridan, started walking south just for fun, you know, rough day on the beach. As they were walking, see that leg right there?
Yeah.
Said that it was up about approximately where the end of that stick, that, you know, branch is.
By the bushes right there.
Yeah, bushes, said that they saw it up
So it's
there.
like up on the hill, kind of?
Yeah.
Okay.
So said that him and his buddy who's in my squad right now walked out, called us, and then when we came back, it was about, I don't know, maybe 7 feet east.
By the rock.
I moved it just for evidence purposes.
Okay, so this gets swept away?
Yeah.
Okay. How long were you out here?
About probably an hour.
An hour?
Yeah.
Okay.
About 16.
Did she come this way?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's going
The
to be
first time you seen
Sunco.
anything here?
Yeah.
Yeah? It's the first time you seen anything like this?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Alright, Evan. Just hang tight, don't go anywhere, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. That is 100% correct. Copy, thank you. Alright, hang on, Evan. We'll talk to you some more, okay?
At the bottom of Warnemont Park's steep cliff, in or near Lake Michigan's roaring waters, investigators say a park goer spotted a bizarre sight Tuesday evening, a severed leg.
We have officers out with the callers by Warnemont Park Golf Course. They're walking down by the pump house.
Calling 911, Cudahy police say they were the first to respond just before 5:30 p.m. Within 10 minutes, dispatchers heard saying this over their radio.
Cudahy to Sheriff Unlawful. This is the sheriff. Go ahead. It's confirmed and located.
Our cameras captured investigators down at the bottom of the cliff searching the area. Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office immediately determining the leg belonged to a human.
The night before, on April 1st, Sade had openly shared her plans with several people. She was thrilled about her date with Maxwell Anderson, talking about it with neighbors and friends alike. When investigators later pulled data from her partially burned phone, they uncovered a string of text messages exchanged with Maxwell, along with GPS information from her Life 360 app. Together, these revealed Sade's movements on the night she disappeared. Records showed she first met Maxwell at the Twisted Fisherman. Then the pair went to a bar before driving together, in Sade's car, to Maxwell's house in southeast Milwaukee. They arrived around 9:30 p.m., but a few hours later, at about 1 a.m., Sade's phone left his home and began moving through downtown Milwaukee. By 3 a.m., the phone pinged near Warnemont Park. Surveillance footage from that area captured a lone figure walking the embankment, the very stretch of shoreline where a human leg would later be found. Within the park, there was an old pump house. Investigators later determined that its gate had been rammed open, with fragments left behind confirming the damage was caused by a Honda Civic. Soon after, Sade's phone went dark. Hours later, around 7:30 a.m., her Civic turned up in flames. Surveillance cameras provided another lead. A man was seen leaving the scene of the burning car, boarding a city bus, and traveling south directly towards South Milwaukee, where Maxwell Anderson lived. With evidence piling up, police knew they needed to talk to him immediately. At the time, Maxwell Anderson was 33 years old. He grew up in Waukesha County and finished high school in 2009. Over the years, he carved out a place for himself in Milwaukee's nightlife, working at various clubs and bars as both a bartender and security. People who knew him described him as outgoing and reliable, and for a short stint he even enlisted in the U.S. Navy, though he left after only 8 months with little explanation. Despite that, Maxwell's record wasn't spotless. In 2014, while staying with relatives in Colorado, he was reportedly under the influence of drugs when he began shouting at family members. He stole a relative's car, crashed it, and when another family member caught up with him, a fight broke out. The altercation ended badly for Maxwell. He was beaten severely and wound up in the hospital. In 2015, Maxwell found himself in trouble again, this time arrested for domestic abuse after striking an elderly relative with a glass. The conflict reportedly began when the family member suggested he seek mental health treatment. When a passerby attempted to step in, things quickly escalated into a physical fight, and Maxwell was arrested as a result. By 2022, he had another charge on his record, this time for driving under the influence. Those who knew Maxwell often described him as entitled and odd, someone who carried himself like a spoiled child, socially awkward, and even paranoid about the world collapsing. He was said to have set up makeshift booby traps around his own home, convinced that danger lurked just around the corner. Despite this strange behavior, Maxwell hadn't grown up struggling. Quite the opposite. He was raised in comfort, his father owning a successful local insurance business. With that background, he developed the attitude that he could take whatever he wanted and live without consequences. That mindset extended into darker territory. Inside his home, Maxwell had built what could only be described as a sex dungeon, complete with restraints, whips, slings, blades, saws, and heavy-duty tarps. The collection painted a disturbing picture of someone with deeply twisted impulses. April 3rd, 2024, Maxwell was still active online, even updating his profile photo as police searched for him. Less than 24 hours later, he posted again on Facebook, this time looking for people to volunteer alongside him. By early afternoon that same day, his freedom came to an end. At roughly 1:20 p.m., Maxwell Anderson was taken into custody following a routine traffic stop.
Southbound Hampton on, 45 southbound Hampton on for Apollo, return for highway versus Chicago.
Any weapons on you, sir?
No. What's going on?
Yeah, somebody just radio it.
When investigators searched Maxwell's vehicle, they came across a gray hoodie tossed in the back seat, the very same style caught on surveillance footage of a man walking away just after Sade's car was set ablaze. That discovery was enough to move quickly. Later that day, police executed a warrant at Maxwell's residence, and what they uncovered erased any lingering doubt. Inside, they found fine spatters of blood along the bedroom walls and trailing down toward the basement. And in that basement, a space Maxwell had transformed into his own disturbing sex dungeon. The scene was nothing short of nightmarish. Every detail there painted a gruesome picture of what Sade had been forced to endure. A few gas cans were also recovered from the property, believed to have been used to ignite her Honda. Simultaneously, police continued to comb the parkland where the car had been burned. On April 6th, more of Sade's remains were located, disturbingly near some of the human flesh. Officers also found a doll pierced through the eyes with nails. Whether it was Maxwell's doing or not, the image was chilling. In the days following, still more pieces of Sade were discovered along the lakefront. A foot was recovered, along with other discarded remains. 2 weeks later, her arm washed ashore. Each new discovery drove home the horrifying reality of her fate.
Family and volunteers searching for the remains of 19-year-old Sade Robinson along Lake Michigan.
They just want justice. They want justice. This is a horrible thing that happened, and they want justice.
It's the same place where someone found Robinson's severed leg April 2nd, one day after investigators say she went on a first date with 33-year-old Maxwell Anderson. Anderson now charged with killing and mutilating Robinson's body.
Then came a revelation no one on the case was prepared for. DNA testing confirmed that the fine spatters of blood on the walls leading down into Maxwell's basement weren't Sade's. The shock didn't end there. On the same beach where her leg had been discovered, investigators recovered 2 latex gloves drenched in blood. But when the lab results came back, they showed something even more unsettling. The blood didn't belong to Sade, and it didn't match Maxwell Anderson either. In fact, multiple samples of unidentified blood turned up around Maxwell's property and in connection to him, which raises a chilling question. It's not just about what he did to Sade, but what else was he involved in? The charges against Maxwell Anderson were severe. First-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, and arson of property. When confronted by authorities, he chose silence, refusing to answer their questions. As the case moved toward trial, it was widely suspected that his defense team would argue her death was accidental. The narrative being floated was that Sade had died during sexual activity in his basement, and that Anderson, overcome with fear and panic, attempted to hide what happened. His way of handling it was gruesome, dismembering her, leaving body parts across Milwaukee, and torching her car in a frantic bid to destroy evidence. If Maxwell's defense team thought the accident angle would hold up, they were gravely mistaken. While surveillance cameras captured Sade's car being driven around after the time she was believed to have died, investigators couldn't identify the driver, but the other evidence was damning. On Maxwell's phone, police recovered deleted photos. Forensic tools brought them back, and what they revealed was horrifying. Images of Sade unconscious in his home, while Maxwell touched her, stripped her clothing, and later dismembered her body. It appeared she may have been drugged or incapacitated after they left the second bar, before Maxwell killed her and used a saw to cut her apart. And disturbingly, this wasn't something improvised. It looked planned. A friend later told investigators that he had been inside Maxwell's basement just weeks earlier, in early March. He described the room as being completely covered in painter's tarps, plastic stretched wall to wall, as if designed to contain whatever mess was about to come. By the time police searched the house, the tarps were gone. But that was days after the murder, leaving plenty of time for Maxwell to dispose of them. Even more chilling, that same friend recalled Maxwell openly talking about his intentions. He said Maxwell had boasted about his plan to lure someone home, kill them with a gun, cut the body into pieces, and scatter the remains around Milwaukee. Investigators also uncovered a telling detail about what happened after Sade and Maxwell left the bar and returned to his house. Digital records revealed his Netflix activity that night. The timestamps showed that almost immediately after they walked in, something was queued up to play. In other words, Maxwell's version of Netflix and chill wasn't just a casual phrase. Investigators could see, down to the minute, exactly what was streaming when they stepped through the door.
Is 2 things, and they're 2 things that the judge just mentioned during those instructions. Use your common sense and search for the truth. That is your job. You will see, the evidence will show that what happened to Sade Robinson that night was not an accident. One does not end up going out to dinner and then going out for drinks on Water Street for a good time to being dead and cut up into pieces and discarded into Lake Michigan unless someone intends for that to happen. That's what the evidence will show happened to Sade Robinson. and the evidence will show Maxwell Anderson is responsible. At the end of this trial, I'm going to come back before you and again ask you to do what I asked you to do from the beginning, to use your common sense and search for the truth. And if you do those two things, you will find the defendant guilty.
In May 2025, Maxwell Anderson stood trial for Sade Robinson's murder. The proceedings lasted 2 weeks. He maintained a plea of not guilty, sitting stone-faced for nearly the entire trial. He never took the stand, and his lawyers chose not to call a single witness. Instead, the defense relied on doubt. They claimed he had no reason to harm Sade, that no one could say for certain what occurred in the house, and that the absence of her blood, or even signs of an attempted cleanup, worked in his favor. The prosecution countered with the digital trail. Surveillance cameras mapped out Sade's car leaving Maxwell's home, making its way through the city, heading toward the park, and ultimately being torched. And perhaps most damning of all, CCTV showing Maxwell walking away from her burning Honda.
Began by using the phrase common sense. You heard it yesterday during jury selection, and you heard it again today in the state's opening. And they're using the phrase common sense because they want you to ignore the mountain of reasonable doubt that exists in this case. And the state knows that there are serious holes in their case. They know it. They know that there's reasonable doubt, and that's why they're coming at you with this phrase like common sense. So let's talk about that. There is absolutely no reason for Max to commit a crime like this. Max brought Sade back to his home and killed her. Why? It's a normal date. They zeroed in on him, they zeroed in on a time frame, and that was all they needed to do. I know that when the evidence shows that when Sade's car left Max's house, and you never see him driving that car.
I will now read them into the record. As to count 1, the verdict reads, we, the jury, find the defendant, Maxwell Anderson, guilty of first-degree intentional homicide as charged in count 1 of the information. As to count 2, we, the jury, find the defendant, Maxwell Anderson, guilty of mutilating a corpse as charged in count 2 of the information. As to count 3, we, the jury, find the defendant, Maxwell Anderson, guilty of arson of property other than a building as charged in count 3 of the information. As to count 4, we, the jury, find the defendant, Maxwell Anderson, guilty of hiding a corpse as charged in count 4 of the information. At this point, I will poll the jury. What that means is as follows. I'm going to have...
It didn't take long for the jury to decide. After roughly an hour of deliberation, they returned with a unanimous verdict. Guilty on every count. Maxwell was sentenced to life in prison. Why he did it remains a question with no clear answer. His not guilty plea left little explanation. Some believe it was a violent outburst consistent with his past, but the testimony of a friend who claimed Maxwell had openly discussed plans to kill and dismember someone suggests something much darker, that it was premeditated all along. Sade's legacy, however, will not be defined by him. Her mother, Sheena, has since launched the Sade's Voice Foundation, a non-profit created to advocate for the safety of young people and to provide crucial support for families, especially those within underserved and overlooked communities.